I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it. Never revisited Snow White again. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be, and the leader that her late father told her that she could be if she was fearless, fair, brave, and true. The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time. It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows?
Now listen, if Disney wants to make more woke films that tank at the box office, they are more than welcome to do that. But maybe think of an original idea. Maybe not destroy a classic from my childhood and put an actress in there that not only hates the plot and the storyline of the movie she's in, but also seemingly hates Snow White, the character herself.
Gal Gadot is obviously done with Rachel Zegler and her attitude surrounding the Snow White movie, as she's proven it in many interviews. While Rachel loves to trash talk the original story, Gal has turned the opposite direction and is refusing to entertain what Rachel is saying. Rachel Zegler has been incredibly vocal with her opinions on the movie. Not only has she been insulting the old version and its themes, as she doesn't believe the love story is in any way relevant or necessary, but she's also been calling Snow White's character outdated. Rachel has made the movie seem extremely political by always condemning the original movie and bringing feminism and all the changes Disney has made to the plot into the conversation, which fans have been less than happy about. In fact, fans think she's acting incredibly entitled by making it sound like this is the only right version and that the politics of it are what's saving the movie. Not only did she insult the original legacy of the movie, but she also insulted her co-star Andrew by making it seem like he's not important to the movie, despite being one of the main characters. Gal Gadot has taken a complete opposite stance to all of this, as she's been making it very clear that she doesn't necessarily agree with the way Rachel is talking about the movie. Rachel has gotten a lot of backlash online because of her views, and Gal has never once commented on it or tried to defend Rachel from the negativity, proving that she might agree with the comments. It's clear that the movie is not about the political agenda in Gal's eyes. And every time she's spoken about the movie and her character in interviews, she's very obviously stayed away from politics. The only thing she's really said about the movie is that it's been retouched to appeal to modern audiences, while also avoiding any controversy. Many fans believe that Gal is trying to distance herself from Rachel's views and comments by not mentioning any of it herself, as it's been made very clear by her that she doesn't agree or think the same things. In every interview, Gal seems to have let Rachel done all the talking when it comes to the modernization of the movie. Even if it's nothing bad, it's often Rachel who is seen commenting on the changes made to the plot, as Gal often focuses on her own character and her experience on the set. Rachel has even brought this conflict to social media because of the way she oftentimes addresses hate and the negativity on Twitter. She's been seen arguing with fans over her Snow White role multiple times and often brings politics into her roles online. This is something Gal has quickly learned not to do, as she doesn't want to put herself into that battlefield. It seems like Rachel has not learned to keep things to herself in order to avoid getting hate, and it's something that Gal has perfected, as she has completely stayed away from the negativity by doing so. While Rachel often still gets backlash and will probably continue to do so, Gal has barely gotten any comments, despite being her co-star. It's very obvious that Rachel's attitude is what has made this so much worse, and Gal has learned to do the complete opposite in order to stay away from that kind of backlash. Gal letting Rachel do all the controversial talking can also have something to do with the fact that she's been very clear about her stance on movies regarding powerful women. Something she's commented on in the past is that she doesn't necessarily like this new portrayal of women in films, as she feels like it often takes away from the beauty of being a woman. She often thinks that women are starting to be written more and more like men, which erases some of what it means to be a woman. She's also addressed how she doesn't like it when male-centered movies get female remakes, like how she is often offered to simply swap a male character for a female one when offered scripts. She instead feels like it would be better to focus that energy into making a new movie that can be all about women and how being a woman is important to their identity. Some fans think this could even be shade at the new Snow White movie, since this is something many people have been criticizing Disney for lately. Disney keeps making remakes of its old movies, like with Snow White, and often changes the plot in order to appeal to modern audiences or to make sure it's more feminist. This is something many fans disagree with, as people just want to see their old favorite movies come to life and not an entirely new one. If Disney wanted to tell these modern stories, they should make new, exciting modern movies that can actually focus
The final episodes of The Witcher Season 3 are upon us, and I say upon us like I'm talking about something horrific descending upon the people of the world because, well, let's just get to that. No intro is really needed. If you watched these final episodes, that means you've become an unfortunate witness to a masterclass in missed potential, the likes of which we're unlikely to ever see again. Part 2 of Season 3 opens with what should have been the best 2-episode stretch of the entire series, the coup on Thanedd Isle that, in a perfect world, would have been very carefully set up over the course of the last season and a half, which obviously didn't happen, so instead what we have here is maybe the show's greatest achievement in terms of taking something that could have been an all-time great episode of television and turning it into a mediocre mess. And I'm not just throwing that out there as a bold statement, let me explain why and what they've done here. First though, since we're on the topic of experiences that maybe would put you in the mood to sue somebody, I do want to take a few seconds to thank the sponsor of today's video, Morgan & Morgan, who of course, you guys know this, are America's largest injury law firm. This is still not a joke, it's actually the second time they've sponsored a video of mine. They must be Witcher fans over there, but we'll be hearing more from them a little later. Now, I said 2 episodes, but that was the perfect world version, we don't live there, so instead, the entire coup and the immediate fallout of it is forced down into by far the shortest episode of the entire season, an episode that also has a lot of other things eating up screen time. The episode starts out by showing us that Philippa, Dijkstra, and a few others have rounded up and shackled almost every single mage on Thanedd with the help of Redanian soldiers. Now, the show does a very poor job of explaining what is happening here, because I don't think the show itself really knows. All you're given as a viewer is the word traitor over and over again. They're traitors, says Philippa. Vilgefortz is working with Nilfgaard and has been creating portals for Emhyr. So why are there like 20 shackled mages then? Well, just because is the reason the show gives you. Dijkstra says they're all shackled as a precaution, because while some are Vilgefortz's allies, the rest just need to hear them out, so imprisonment to all neutral parties, I guess. I should point out, this entire scenario with captured mages is another case where the writers have taken what the original story did and just made it way worse with their changes. In the book, only a very small number of mages that could be counted on one hand are captured, and all the neutral parties are invited to attend their trial. Makes a lot more sense than in the show where there's 20 shackled. This whole situation and their changes to it also make Dijkstra look like a moron. Instead of the plan being to capture known or heavily suspected enemies from carefully gathered intel, which is kinda his entire thing, the plan is instead to just arrest everyone. 75% of the people they capture are neutral parties who are shackled in what is essentially poison to them, Dimeridium. Yeah, really a smart plan to make enemies out of 15 of the most powerful mages on the continent, just because. After Tissaia shows up though, Vilgefortz gets slapped, and because the show made Vilgefortz and Tissaia lovers, this makes her very angry, and she frees everyone, which leads to a breakout of violence. Then we get another Dijkstra is an idiot moment, because what I want in a Witcher show are moments where Dijkstra looks like an idiot, but for no apparent reason, Dijkstra decides he needs to provoke Geralt, and tells him, "If you're looking for Ciri, I assure you, Witcher, it's already too late," because of course Radovid had been sent to capture her, though Dijkstra doesn't know that failed yet. Anyway, Dijkstra says this as he's walking away, like Geralt's just gonna go, "Oh, okay, I don't care what you mean by that." If Dijkstra hadn't said anything, Geralt would have just taken off to find Ciri, but of course, I guess this Dijkstra just doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut. This all leads to Dijkstra having another idiotic moment where he tries to fight Geralt 1v1. Sure.
That's it? That's the best you got?
So last week I said that the MCU was beginning a downward spiral and it looked like the Marvels was only the beginning of the trouble ahead. Well, I saw the Marvels a few days later and it did indeed suck.
Oh, that sucks.
Nia DaCosta made a pretty engaging spin on Candyman, and she's pretty much admitted that Kevin Feige commandeers these movies at a certain point, so it's no fault on her part, but really, this amalgamation of 2 streaming shows and a once billion-dollar sub-franchise simply didn't have the chops to keep my interest. The power-switching gimmick ended up coming across as nonsense, with fuzzy rules thanks to some less than stellar editing, and it feels like it basically becomes an afterthought after the first action sequence. Nick Fury feels like he was pulled from a point-in-time pre-Secret Invasion, but somehow this is post that lame-ass streaming series. Well, at least Nick is looking rejuvenated. Happy for him.
Strong theory.
The movie feels like it skipped over what would have been a true Captain Marvel sequel. We just jump right past the setup at the end of the first movie, and Jude Law, I guess Jude Law was too busy working on Disney's other ailing franchise. Believe the anti-hype, this villain is just as one-note and disappointing as everyone is saying, and there's really no excuse to have antagonists be this one-dimensional 10 years on from Malekith.
And you can look out the window. When you look at the world through a window, it makes it awesome, like TV.
Of course, you've got your usual culture war camps engulfing the reaction to this movie. You can't have a Marvel movie disappoint anymore without someone positing it's because of rampant racism, sexism, etc., or that the audience gleefully wants these things to fail and are simply nasty little haters. I'm aware that there is bigotry in some of these fandoms, but I think tarnishing everyone with the same brush merely because they dislike a movie is in bad faith. It's often a malaise of factors that lead to these movies getting poorly received. Honestly, it feels like you could champion people of colour and women in these movies, both on screen and behind the camera, and then, you say one of these Marvel movies isn't very good. Well,
why don't you go join the rest of the fucking Nazis?
It is much easier to say something like Thor Love and Thunder is trash, because there's no way anybody can link your dislike of the movie to bigotry in an attempt to destabilise any negative reaction or garner attention on their social media platform of choice. As per usual, all these outlandish takes and reactions come down to marketing. It is much better for your platform to grow if you say something really outlandish.
It is exhausting.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, Loki Season 2 rolls around and somehow sucks even more than the Marvels. This is the worst MCU thingy Loki has ever been a part of. Just front to back, this series... Oh god, I can feel your anger rushing to the comments section as we speak. Well, yeah, psych, Nav. Of course I don't think that. Unlike a whole host of recent Marvel releases, this feels like some forethought was paid to the story and the characters and making you feel something, as well as giving us resolutions and arcs. What a concept!
What a concept!
The series kept the focus firmly on being a character study of Loki.
Everyone here knows what you're doing, You're just trying to make up for all the awful shit you've done in your life, you pathetic little man.
Even though he's set on a path to redemption, he still has to contend with the horrible things he's done and the misguided idea of his glorious purpose. Mobius telling him that purpose is more burden than glory was a fantastic way to send him hurtling towards his final God Loki form, doing something utterly selfless yet completely isolating and punishing. Loki doesn't want to be alone, but is willing to do so for all eternity just to save his friends and give everyone a chance. Tom Hiddleston's ad-lib in the final episode calls back to his first appearance, and alongside the Avengers' Glorious Purpose callback, this whole ending feels so attuned to everything we've seen from the character since 2011.
I know what kind of god I need to be for you, for all of us.
And how cool is it that Mobius and Loki's first conversation are also their last?
Time travel!
These two have been the beating heart of the series. How many characters in the MCU have gotten the chance to sit down with some pie and talk about an existential crisis?
Get me a big bowl. Pie, some ice cream on it. Good.
I'm really going to miss this character. He's been one of the best post-Endgame additions. The entire cast was so strong, building upon the foundations of Season 1, with everyone from Casey to B-15 getting satisfying endings. Seeing the TVA ponder their lives outside of those work walls brought to mind Severance in flattering ways. That being said, Ke Huy Quan's OB really stole the show. His character was an utter delight, hilarious and heartwarming in equal measure. Sylvie felt a little sidelined this time around, and you could definitely feel Marvel downplaying the romance angle. I think that's a shame, because they already made it such an integral part of the story. I think it's melodramatic to call it self-cessed. It's bloody sci-fi. They're not really the same person, are they? Like, really. Sylvie is her own character. But whatever. What she did get to do was good. Eric Martin was bumped up to head writer of Series 2, and that ended up being a great move. In an interview with Script Magazine, he outlined his priorities, stating that the first layer of work is just character, character, character. I lay all of that down where I think of who they really are right now, what they want, what they think they want, and what they really want. What starts to feel juicy in that? What starts to feel meaty and meaningful? This adherence to getting emotionally involved with the characters and feeling out their desires and deeper meanings is why this show has stood head and shoulders above so much theme park superhero fare released in the last few years. Directors Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead are a directing duo I've admired for almost a decade now, starting with 2014 feature Spring. Their compelling sci-fi tales ranging from The Endless to Synchronic starring the MCU's own Anthony Mackie to Something in the Dirt meant they were perfect for Loki.
Hey guys, this is Alachia, and I wanted to thank a couple of you guys who tweeted and messaged me yesterday the Kurt Scott's video on optimistic nihilism. I've actually been a very, very long time subscriber of Kurt Scott's before it was Kurt Scott's in a nutshell. And one of my favorite videos that they've ever done is on the death of the universe. But it was really awesome that so many people were like, hey, check out this video, Alachia, I think you'll like it. It's like, you guys are starting to get me, man. It's really awesome. So the video on optimistic nihilism was really about our place in the universe as human beings. And it also touches on what it's like to accept your present moment in time, knowing that in the scope of all time in the universe, your existence is so almost utterly meaningless. And actually, ironically, it's actually one of their most optimistic videos that they've done. Just recently, this person was so right, and thank you so much for the recommendation. So it is on Amazon Prime Season 1 and Season 2. It aired back in 2015. It is a British series that was produced on Channel 4 based off of the Swedish series. And I think it
The upgrade you've
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Alonzo, Kim, taking a look at Season 1 of Humans on AMC, the pilot episode.
I love this.
You love this, yeah, so tell me about that.
Well, maybe this is more my genre, how Sense8 would be something that you feel really attached to. I feel really attached to the AI, singularity genre, what is human, questioning our own humanity when forced to look into how we treat robots, or androids rather, which is, we treat them as less than, we treat them as servants, and then also there's that fear of, am I being supplanted? Am I obsolete? Am I going to be left behind? And it just, I love that it forces you to look at your own humanity.
It definitely does bring all that stuff up, I grant you. And I hope that as the show proceeds, that it feels less like other shows and movies I have seen that bring up those same issues. I kind of,
it does feel familiar.
A little bit. Although I will say the idea of the fact that there's this sort of renegade pack of them that have some level of sense.
You know, it seems to me like the modern entertainment landscape is littered with the bloated, decaying corpses of once promising franchises, cut down in their prime by misguided attempts to push them beyond their original premise and turn them into something they were never meant to be, given way too much creative control to people whose ambitions are far in excess of their actual abilities, or pandering to a vocal minority of activists who spend their whole lives complaining about stuff on social media. Occasionally, though, a movie or TV show will really subvert my expectations and do all three at the same time. It's like the holy trinity of bullshit. Which brings me neatly along to Westworld, one of the most interesting and impressive TV shows of 2016. It had a huge budget, a talented and experienced cast, and a complex, multi-layered plot that hinted at even bigger mysteries to come. And most important, it had boobs. Lots of boobs. Naturally, I was pleased by this, and Westworld quickly became one of my favourite shows, but as Game of Thrones brought home with painful clarity, all good things must come to an end. Unfortunately, the end in this case came a little sooner than I'd expected. We were recently treated to a trailer for the upcoming Season 3. I'll do a more detailed video on that later, but basically my reaction was, I don't give a shit. But drinker, you capricious virtuoso, I hear you say. You just got done telling us how much you enjoyed Westworld. How can you have suddenly lost interest in it, you absolute heel? Well, pucker up, dear viewer, because I'm a man and I'm about to explain stuff. Allow me to enlighten you. For anyone that's totally disconnected from reality, Westworld is a futuristic theme park where wealthy guests can live out fantasies of adventure and excitement in a recreation of the Wild West. Just like in video games, they can choose to explore the world at their leisure, take part in pre-written storylines that offer danger and intrigue, or just dick around enjoying the amenities. I know which option I'd pick. The big draw of Westworld is that it offers total freedom. Guests can choose to be virtuous heroes or murderous villains depending on their personality, playing by the rules or making their own. Whatever they choose, there's no consequence or punishment for their actions. All of this is made possible through the use of hosts, lifelike androids that have been designed to look and act so human that they're almost impossible to tell from the real thing. They can laugh and cry, act frightened or excited, they can improvise conversations, form bonds, and even fall in love, which makes it pretty tough to watch when some of the guests start indulging their darker appetites. As far as they're concerned, the hosts are just mindless machines that can't really feel pain or emotion. No matter what gets done to them, they just get repaired and wake up the next day like nothing happened. But what if they're wrong? What if there's more to these hosts than just strings of ones and zeros? What if they're starting to remember their past experiences and question the reality around them? What will they do if they ever get out of control? And what's the true purpose of Westworld and the shadowy corporation that operates it? These are some of the intriguing questions that made the first season such a compelling viewing. It was a show that wasn't afraid to tackle grand ideas in a patient, intelligent way, whether it was questioning the nature of consciousness and what it takes to achieve it, or exploring the darker side of humanity and what we're capable of in a world without rules. It was a show that hinted at larger mysteries to unravel and conspiracies to unmask, grounding all of it in science and technology that was both stunningly advanced yet believable and natural, while at the same time giving us gritty, intense, and very human stories from both sides of the divide. And it certainly didn't flinch when it came to violence either. Westworld is a place where death can be sudden, gruesome, and merciless. A place where mothers can be murdered in front of their children, where men can be tortured and mutilated for fun, where pain and suffering and death are bought and sold as luxury experiences. But unlike in the real world, death isn't permanent. Hosts can be killed in the most destructive ways, only to be carted away, repaired, and put back to work like nothing happened. By showing us the existence of endless suffering, death, and resurrection they're forced to go through, the show did a great job of making you empathise with the hosts. Westworld is a show that's not afraid to ask uncomfortable questions about human nature. How far would we be prepared to go in a world with no consequences? What kind of cruelties are we capable of? The first season explores both sides of this question by showing us how a timid and well-meaning character can be gradually seduced by the violent delights of the park, ultimately turning into a cruel and ruthless thrill-seeker who cares about nothing and no one. The gradual breakdown of order and control in the park was cleverly and patiently depicted as technicians and scientists struggled to explain the increasingly erratic behaviour of the hosts and the possibility that this isn't just a random event, that it might be part of some grand plan all along, some final game to end all others. In short, Westworld had everything I appreciate in a good TV show. It was smart, interesting, believable and compelling. It had a big cast of multifaceted characters played by mostly talented actors. It had mysteries and conspiracies, and there was a real feeling that each seemingly random event was connected somehow, that it was building towards something bigger and more important than anyone knew. And as it turns out, it was indeed building towards something big. Something very big indeed.
That is one big pile of shit.
There's no getting around this. Season 2 was a confused, disjointed mess that effectively undermined the central premise of the show, destroyed the carefully crafted tension and mystery that kept the narrative moving forward so efficiently, neutered or straight up killed the show's most interesting antagonist, and turned the previously sympathetic, vulnerable, and relatable protagonists into cold, smug, ruthless Mary Sues who can do anything and beat anyone. All of this was packed with a big chunk of aimless busy work to pad out the episode count, pointless sidesteps into periphery characters, locations and subplots we didn't care about, and a finale so ridiculous, convoluted and contrived that I honestly struggle to believe it was written by the same people. In short, Season 2 was a fucking disaster that abandoned pretty much everything that made the show good in the first place. And since I like to qualify my rants with actual arguments and evidence, let's explore this in more detail. The thing that made the first season
With Fear the Walking Dead's final season coming out in the next couple weeks, I figured it'd be the best time to talk about the show and give it a proper video. As you may know, I've been pretty harsh on Fear the Walking Dead over the years, and honestly, it's for good reason, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that at all. However, that doesn't mean that this show is all bad. Just as many bad things there are in the show, there's also equally a lot of good things within it. I think there's a clear rise and fall of the show, and that's exactly what I want to talk about in this video. So, you guessed it, in this video we're going to be talking about the rise and inevitable fall of Fear the Walking Dead. If you like the sound of that, be sure to subscribe and all the things, yada yada, you get the point. So, for
why is Fear the Walking Dead so bad? Now, if you're a fan of the show, great for you. I'm really happy that you are. But I've just never been able to really like it or get into it. Anytime I kind of like a character, out of all the times I've tried to watch a show, they end up doing something stupid that doesn't make any sense, or they end up dying. Now, Fear the Walking Dead is in its 5th season, and I'm honestly surprised that it's gotten 5 seasons. It probably should have ended after season 3 because of the weird Morgan reboot that they did. But here we are in the season 5, and I guess it's been okay so far. I haven't watched any of it because I really just don't care, but I've seen clips online and I've seen some reviews on YouTube and stuff, so I get the general idea. Fear the Walking Dead is not a hard show to follow. It's pretty simple and it's kind of basic when it comes to just storytelling. It's really not that complex. Now, what got me thinking to do this video was this last week, Dwight showed up in Fear the Walking Dead, which, cool. I like Dwight. I like Austin Amelia, who plays Dwight. He seems like a cool guy. Dwight was fun in The Walking Dead, but just the possibility of Morgan and Dwight finding these people is just slim to none in a zombie apocalypse. Now, I never lived in a zombie apocalypse, so I guess I technically don't know. But what are the odds that two main characters from The Walking Dead find Alicia and the other Fear the Walking Dead people? It is slim to none. And on top of that, if they wanted to do a Morgan show, they should have just done Fear the Morgan or something like that and gave Morgan his own true spinoff, not take over Fear the Walking Dead, because
Fear the Walking Dead is one of the worst shows ever made, and in this video I'll tell you why. It was actually torture watching this series. I don't understand how a show can be as bad as this and not be cancelled. Even when Fear the Walking Dead's at its best, it's never as good as The Walking Dead. And if you've seen my Walking Dead videos, you'll know I think that show became unwatchable after season 5. But no matter how bad The Walking Dead got, it was never as bad as Fear. Although saying that, I do actually like season 1 to 3. I respect the fact that they were telling their own story separate from the main show. Yes, it's slow and boring at times, but that's because it's more of a character study in the early seasons. And because it's so character focused, I found myself getting invested in the characters themselves, especially Madison, Nick, Strand and Travis. But Fear the Walking Dead has this problem. Anytime they have a cool character, they either ruin them or kill them. For example, Travis starts off as a Dale type character, believing you shouldn't kill. But after his son's murdered and he's confronted with the men who did it, he changes his mind about killing and beats 2 men to death, technically 3, which really hardens him up as a character. So much so that when Travis is thrown into a pit of zombies, he fucks up every single one of them. So what do they do with this great character they've built up for 3 seasons? Well, they kill him, of course, and in the most pointless way too. He's in a helicopter, but then he's shot, so he throws himself out of it. When Madison finds out it was the Indians who killed her boyfriend, you'd think she'd be angry. But no, Madison befriends them. Travis's death meant nothing. It didn't affect the story in any way, and the other characters just move on. It was only done the way it was for shock value. What a waste of a character. We'll get to what they did to Madison, Nick and Strand in a bit, but first I want to talk about the season 3 cliffhanger. If you don't know, season 3 culminates with Nick detonating explosives and blowing up the dam, which causes Madison to get washed away. Now, I waited months for season 4 to be released, and all that time I was theorising about what happened and what was going to happen next. But never in a million years did I think they'd do what they did. So what did they do? Well, they handed Fear over to Morgan and completely abandoned the other storylines. This is the Morgan show now. All the unanswered questions are still unanswered. What happened to Madison, Strand, Alicia and Nick? It doesn't matter, they're all back together now. How did Luciana find Nick? She left in season 3. I guess she's just back now. What happened to Proctor John and his men? Who cares? They've been replaced with a wannabe Zac Efron. What about Walker and Crazy Dog? Where are they? Nobody knows, because we never see them again.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
This was a massive kick in the balls for anyone invested in the story.
But wait! There's more!
Nick's death. Yep, that's right, they kill off their best character. Dead. Apparently Frank Delane wanted to leave, which is fair enough. The dude's a great actor, far too good for this shit show. The thing I'm still trying to understand is why the writers thought it was a good idea to make the little bitch who killed Nick one of the main characters. I mean, the fact Nick's girlfriend and sister know Charlie killed him and neither of them kill her, instead they take her in as part of their fucking group, makes zero sense. Earlier I said Fear the Walking Dead either kills their cool characters or ruins them. Well, with Nick they do both.
What makes a man?
Men lead, women follow, bro.
Damn,
son.
I think a man should have absolutely no interest in whether he's actually happy.
You were happy your entire childhood. That's your happy days. You're a man. Your responsibility.
Work. When you're trying to be nice as a man, it basically means be more like a girl.
Men that cry and are soft are not attractive.
You're in the position of power. You lead the relationship.
Oh, you're supposed to feed the baby. Oh, you're supposed to get up with the baby as a real daddy. Here's what changed diapers. No, that's a lie. That's your wife's job.
How value man is a man with a lot of women?
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
Never say go to bed. Going to bed is emasculating. Cowards need sleep.
Being nicer for a man in a world that you assert basically gives you a vagina.
Well, if you ask these guys, it seems like they've got an entire manual ready to go. In the past few years, we've seen the stark rise of a certain niche of content dedicated to helping men reach their ultimate potential, to unlock what it means to be a real man. And from their perspective, being real men involves traits vaguely in line with dominance, strength, and status. Achieve these as they see fit, and you may just be an alpha male. The zenith of manhood, the top of the food chain, Mr. Steal Your Girl. He's got what every woman wants and what every man wants to be. But fail to live up to this, and you're flung to the lower rungs of masculinity. Cast, or shall I say cursed, with the role of a beta male. A label that ties the so-called simps and soy boys and vegans together. It's a term that implies your failure to succeed, seduce, and dunk yourself in Ben Franklin's, a guy they believe brings the modern man to shame. These stereotypes have long been a staple of popular entertainment and now social media. But could they still hold weight today? Are men just destined to live life like some 2000s teen movie, forever tied to rigid tropes and cliches around manhood? Also, what is it about this hierarchy that draws in so much appeal in the first place? And are the current icons of the concept truly the poster boys of alpha men, or could it be possible this content is just oblivious at best and grifting at worst? Let's find out together.
All the sexual synergy and hunger and anger and frustration and yelling and eating and breathing.
Before we get into the rise of the alpha male, I think it's worth briefly covering the larger social community this ideology is a part of. And for those who don't know, I'm about to, for better or for worse, force feed y'all some forbidden fruit, because we're about to dive into the manosphere. So as some of you may have guessed, the manosphere is a testosterone-fueled whirlwind of online forums, websites, blogs, and social media groups dedicated to providing men's dating advice, self-improvement tips, and above all else, a guide on what it means to be a real man. Although most of the time, this idea of real men is specifically catered to what straight guys want, and what's termed as hegemonic masculinity, the stereotypical male traits we've upheld as the masculine ideal. In Western or Westernized societies, this is often synonymous to being macho or exhibiting traits such as dominance, aggressiveness, strength, courage, competitiveness, and confidence to some extent. And let's not forget the ability to pull in the babes. It's like if a Michael Bay movie were a man. Of course, none of these traits or behaviors are inherently bad on their own, just want to clarify. But when a lot of these groups and their leading figures, I'll get to them in a minute, are constantly pushing these traits as the be-all, end-all of one's manhood, that's when things strike a nerve. It's as if they're saying, well, if you're not the stereotypical macho man, then are you even a man? Usually, anything remotely feminine to these guys is considered weak or undesirable for men.
If you go watch the movie Barbie, you're 100% a beta. There's no way around it. I don't care if your girlfriend forced you. How about you force her to watch Oppenheimer? Because that's what real alphas would do.
And when these beliefs are drilled into one hard enough through empowering quotes or TikTok rants, it can lead them down a slippery slope of, well, misogyny, and a disdain for the guys who don't exactly fit their narrow view of masculinity. It's no surprise then that a lot of these communities are passionately anti-feminist, believing that feminism is a zero-sum game that has corrupted society, overpowering women at the expense of men, and in the process turning the latter into a mass of weak, lost, and powerless souls. But hey, Don't let me tell you.
We cannot deny that feminism is a man-hating ideology.
Feminism was forced on women because they knew, the Marxists understood, that it was a means by which they would subvert the power of the men in a society, and through feminism, men grow weak. Feminism isn't just about elevating women, it's about degrading men.
There's no longer this constraint, this restriction on women's sexuality that came from our faith in God. Then with the sex revolution that started, I think in the 60s, 1960s, there was the birth of the contraceptive pill, and suddenly women now had the possibility of having casual sex without the risk of pregnancy. The issue is that women are allowed to sleep around with no problems whatsoever attached to that.
Feminism is great. It's helped men out completely. We're doing so well that now 60% of the college entrants are women, and men have fallen down to 40%. Men are now earning less money on average. Women are starting to out-earn men. Men are still dying on the job more. Actually, like 99% of job deaths are men. Men occupy prisons. Most people that are homeless are men. Feminism, so good for men.
It is a supremacism movement. It is a gender sex supremacism movement.
If she's allowed to have sex, she may as well pick the best guy for that. Now the dating market has been totally open and even encouraged for women to, indulge and to sleep around. This means that the majority of guys are not getting any attraction from women. That's going to drastically increase how lonely a lot of guys are.
The cancer on culture that is feminism is to trick women into thinking that they will get their moment in the sun, that they will be in charge. Women will not be in charge. Men will not be in charge. We will all be enslaved and subjugated.
They'll go back and say, well, wasn't first wave feminism a good thing, Rollo? No, it wasn't. It essentially created the largest voting bloc in the United States. You've got the beta male guys who are essentially these sneaky fuckers, right? The cuttlefish, who will be happy to sort of align themselves with the feminine imperative as long as they possibly can. Kind of like pulls the teeth out of men having any kind of like organized solidarity.
It's never about social justice. It's only about subjugation, enslavement, and entrainment. This that we face is not feminism. Feminism is a mask. What this is a death cult. This is a death cult.
Unsurprisingly, the manosphere is made up of a number of, say, infamous online subcultures. These including the MGTOWs, or men going their own way, who have sworn off women altogether, the red-pilled, who believe in a gynocentric conspiracy that the world is actually dominated and focused on women, the incels, the pickup artists, they're very cool, and of course the alpha male content creators. While they do have a category of their own, they definitely have a lot of overlap in beliefs with the other subgroups, usually in their shared disdain for, well, women.
Most women, quite frankly, are useless.
The alpha male sphere is most commonly found on popular video sharing spaces like YouTube and TikTok, and boy, are they thriving. Whether it's snappy advice in the form of shorts, hours-long podcasts, debates, or motivational videos, these guys make up a widely successful and accessible part of the online manosphere, dressing up their not-so-subtle sexism and narrow views under the guise of self-improvement and modern dating advice. Although some drop the act and are just upfront about that.
You can't slander me, because I will state right now that I am absolutely sexist and I'm absolutely a misogynist. And I have you money, and you can't take it away. Because I'm a realist, and when you're a realist, you're sexist.
So what does it mean to be an alpha male? Well, despite this buzzword making its rounds in the social media space now more than ever, it's a concept that stuck around for decades before the dawn of TikTok or YouTube or the podcast hellscape. Rooted in the pseudoscience of us human beings having the supposedly same social hierarchy as that of animals in the wild, which I will get into, the alpha male is essentially the ultimate model of man. He's well respected, he's accomplished, women love him, and he's confident in the body he's given. And that's a pretty harmless, perfectly fine thing to aspire to. Their successes in areas of life a lot of us value. The problem, however, lies in the same way a lot of these manosphere groups tend to lose the plot. Their message can quickly devolve from be the best version of yourself to be our version of a man, or you're a failure. Being respected somehow shrinks into being dominant. Being accomplished gets morphed into private jets and Bugattis, and success with women boils down to keeping them in submission. Take, for instance, one of the most beloved figures of the internet today, Andrew Tate. Having made his name online as the social media king of both an ultra-masculine and ultra-luxurious lifestyle, Tate has made the rounds for his rather provocative brand of male-targeted self-help advice. Now, to be perfectly fair, the man has shared beliefs and advice that are actually quite valid. And I'm sure a lot of passionate Tate stans, if they're even watching, are about to defend him in the comments to say this, but I will clarify. He said things that are, on their own, some pretty productive tenets to live by. Things like, do good by others, violence is bad in a romantic or family relationship, be honest, and others have the right to believe and act as they wish. All good things applicable to anyone really, man or woman. I can totally respect this. What I can't respect, though, is hypocrisy, because as much as Tate would tout these virtuous ideals, he contradicts himself a lot. For example, he's gone on to repeatedly teach young men how their value and purpose are tied to their work. He's all for overworking yourself as a man, bragging about how he literally doesn't sleep.
The fact I can't sleep, I've had girls say to me, you can't sleep, you need to see a psychiatrist. And I said, absolutely not. I'm glad I can't sleep. Good, I can train endlessly. That's why I'm bigger than I've ever been. I'll train I'm not gonna waste a minute. It's fantastic that I can't sleep. It's all the time I need. So I can train endlessly. So my point is, the answer is always hard work.
Saying that he doesn't believe in a work-life balance and full-on glorifying suffering and trauma, that they are crucial for your self-worth and success as a man.
The answer to everything is always the same. Hard work. Work harder. The worse things are, the harder I will work. My entire life is work. It's all work. Life is work. Existence is work. If I'm awake, I'm working. Every single thing I do is conscious. I work smart, I don't work hard, so I only have to work an hour a day. If working smart gets you a lot done in an hour a day, then you should work smart for 12 hours a day and get 12 times the work done. And people don't want to look at life that way. They want to talk about work-life balance and being lazy and all this crap. I don't believe in any of that. I believe in, if you want to win, you have to outcompete the man who's prepared to do nothing but work. I haven't missed a day of work in 10 years. Maybe I've had days where I've gone driving the supercars and I've only done 2 hours work instead of 8 hours. I've never had a day where I thought, okay, I'm not going to work. My screen time on my phone is 9 hours a day, every fucking day. I am working. Earth must be conquered. Even the idea of resting aggravates my mind. I could sit around and complain about being tired. I could sit around and be a bitch. I could sit around and cry. Or I could just work harder than I've ever worked. I have Twitch streamers who are 19 years old, fat, drinking soya milk, who have millions and millions of people paying attention to them, and they're rich now. So they're statistically successful, but they are not men, and they will never become men. Because to be a man, you must suffer. You must suffer and you must survive. But you're a man, right? And if you're a man, then it's absolutely an utterly different experience of life. I think we're here to struggle. I think we're here to endure pain. The answer is always...
This is the most iconic scene from the movie Fight Club.
I felt sorry for guys packed into gyms, trying to look like how Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger said they should. Is that what a man looks like?
Self-improvement is masturbation. Now self-destruction.
The protagonist's point is that today there's countless people who are ready to prey on your insecurities to sell you a dream of a life that can never exist. And so you watch endless videos and podcasts that promise the newest silver bullet that's going to fix all your life's problems. As a former self-help junkie, I'm going to tell you the 3 harsh truths it took me years to learn the hard way. So if you can't focus for 5 minutes, I'm sure there's some slime video out there that you can click on. But the first reason you can't stop watching this content is because of insecurity. Not long ago, I was fully immersed in the world of self-improvement, and believe me when I say I tried every fad under the sun, from cold showers to intermittent fasting, meditation, dopamine detox, nootropics, hypnosis, quitting